Okay, it's 2 o'clock, and our next committee meeting is the Public Service Committee. Those committee members are Mosley, Kamer, Holland, Lombardo, and McKittrick. We do have all committee members present whenever you're ready, Madam Chair.
If I could call public service to order, if I could get a motion of our previous meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. We have 3 pieces coming before us today. The first one is an ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids for the installation of speed tables in the city of Akron and declaring an emergency. Mr. Ludlow?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of committee. Yes, this will be the 3rd year that we put the speed tables down. What we have found over the last 2 years, it takes considerable time to do this. It takes probably close to a month with our crews to put these down without shutting down the whole operation. So what we'd like's authorization is allow us to go out and bid this installation only. So we have the speed tables. We did purchase the new hardware for this year, but we would allow, like I said, with this legislation, and this would be a perfect contract maybe for a small business contractor. It doesn't take a lot of tools to install this. You don't need a backhoe, that type of thing. What we've found, it takes about a day for us to put one of these down. There's 320 holes to put down one table, and then when you put down a table, or when you pick a residential street, there's 2 tables, and they're typically so many 100 yards apart. So that's what this legislation is for.
Okay. So I'm on the piece where it talks about where the tables are in those communities. So we all still only get like a pair?
Pardon?
A pair. We only get 2?
Yes.
Okay.
2 on a street.
Okay.
And in last year, we had some on boulevards, like Castle had a high number of requests, so we did Castle Boulevard, but with it being a divided street, we actually had 4 on Castle. Now, people would argue that's 2 different streets because the median in the middle, but we had 4 tables on Castle. 2 on the northbound lanes and then 2 on the southbound lanes.
Okay. Okay. Councilwoman Holland?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Little, I had a really, really helpful, in-depth conversation with engineer Michelle DeFiore last week about installation of speed tables, placement, and about, I guess, if you will, the winners in terms of rankings for placement. And I learned a great deal, and all of this sort of leads me to ask you, what's the decision-making logic in taking this from an in-house operation, installation of these tables, to taking it outside?
Why are we doing it?
Yep.
Just because, you know, when we decided to pilot this a couple years ago, we didn't add any staff. Okay, so with issue 4, we did purchase a small milling machine and a small paving machine. And we anticipated once we got this, it would really help our crews do some of these minor pavement jobs, for lack of better terms, some of our parking lots. Well, if we take a month of our resources and put these down, and then a month to take them up, we lose a lot of time. So instead of hiring out another crew just to do this, we thought we would, you know, it's in the budget, it's in our, let's bid it out and see if we can get a small company to bid on this. And they would be responsible to install them, and they'd be responsible to remove them in the fall. And what we would do is we would work with them on the first one where we would install it, they would be there. On the second one, we'd send a couple supervisors to make sure, or a smaller crew to make sure they did it correctly, and then we would spot check throughout the rest of the installation.
That's actually very helpful. One of the things I worry about is, you know, we've talked about this at length too, you and I, the number of holes, right? And, you know, concerns about the longevity of our expensive repaving efforts. So that's encouraging. Would the outside contractor then be responsible once speed tables are taken up in the fall to sealing those holes? Would that be part of the deal?
Yes.
Okay. And I also understood from Ms. DeFiore, but I'd like to confirm with you, that the various rankings that are attached to this item, these are not final, that these, that these are subject to some negotiation. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Mallett?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Luddle. I've been a big fan of the speed tables since they were rolled out. The people of Castle Boulevard are fans, by and large. The people of Garmin are fans. And I know all of us probably have more than a dozen streets in our wards that we could try to put these down where they would be greeted with applause and parades and things like that. I don't have an issue with this because I did see how much time it took for our own city crews to deploy these last year. I guess I just want to restate what I've said in the past, which is I think, we've piloted this, we know that it works, and I think the most efficient thing that we can do is now, as we are resurfacing streets, particularly where these have been in the past, we should be doing these as permanent asphalt speed humps, because having them there for 6 months is a benefit, but just when folks get used to it, we pull them out and we tell them we only have one per ward. We might get you, you're realistically not going to see these again, at least for another several years. Right now, we had Chocolog that was done in 2020 or 2021, and it's being resurfaced right now. It would be a prime opportunity to put down an asphalt speed hump there. I know the residents agree. But I just want to make that point that I think, regardless of whether we're doing it in-house or not, I don't know that this is the most efficient way of deploying speed tables in our community now that we've piloted it and now that we know it works.
Councilwoman, do you want to answer that, Chris, or you want me to go to Councilwoman Amovian?
No, I duly noted what he said.
Okay. Councilwoman Amovian?
My question was very similar, Mr. Luddle. I know we've been talking about speed humps for a long time. I was just wondering if we had any idea when we may just install the permanent ones, but it's the same question. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. That's it? No other questions? Councilman Mallett?
I just want to ask directly, what are the considerations around permanent speed tables?
I guess we're going to have to look at the budget and our resurfacing we currently assess. So if we're going to assess, because if we put these on where people want them on streets, I don't think we need to look at the budget. Should everybody in the city pay for certain streets to have a speed table?
Right. So, Chris, question, is there a way these could be paid for out of issue 4 since it's roads? Is that a possibility?
Well, I guess if you don't live on a street that's able to have a speed table, arterial collector, that type of street, should you be paying for something on a residential street that is able to be put on?
Right.
I mean, we have to look at
Look at
that
that, yeah.
as overall.
Right. Okay.
And then long-term maintenance,
Right. I mean, you still would have to take them up in the wintertime because of the snow trucks. We get that part, but if you could look into that, see
Sure.
what we could do. Okay. Question. All right. And any other questions? Consent, okay?
That's fine.
Okay, can I motion for consent?
Madam Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt. Councilwoman Mobian has her hand raised again.
Councilwoman Amovian?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Whether people live on that street or not, in many cases, it's the main artery to streets that run off. I would think everybody would benefit from having them in most locations.
Okay. Councilman Kamer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to make a motion for suspension of the rules because I think we're already behind schedule.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion for suspension of rules.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, okay. Our next piece is an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids with a consultant or consultants for the construction management of the Riverside Sewer Separation CSO Rack 34 and Lower North Side Interceptor lining projects and declaring an emergency. Mr. Ludlow?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of committee. This is, one project is part of our consent decree, and the other project is through our normal CMOM program. So the lining of the North Side Interceptor Tunnel and the Riverside separation project, we've brought the construction legislation to you previously. We've bid them both out. The lower lining project is, our bids were 21% under the engineer's estimate, and the Rack 34 separation is 34% under the engineer's estimate. So what this legislation will allow us to do is to pick a consultant to manage this project for the construction management. Okay. I can talk about both projects, but the lining project started, and this is going to be kind of a hybrid. We are going to use some of our own staff to help with both of these, but the Rack 34 is most likely going to be mostly the consultant doing the construction management of this project. So.
Any questions from committee members? Council? Will be a pleasure.
Consent's fine.
Can I get a motion for consent?
Motion for consent?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Next and final piece is an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids for repairs to City of Akron parking structures and declaring an emergency. Mr. Ludlow?
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of committee. These two, Cascade and Superblock, which are right next door to each other on Mill Street, they both have failing beams. Cascade is 55 years old, as you know, and Superblock is about 46 years old. So on the Cascade project, we have about 10 existing columns that are failing. They're covered with 6-inch concrete that'll have to be removed, and then new reinforced steel will have to be installed at Superblock. Basically, we have a couple beams that are failing, and it's the same process where they'll have to remove all the concrete off the beam, install new beams in these parking garages.
Okay. And this is coming from the general operating fund?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Any questions from committee members? Councilman Mallett?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Ludlow. I did notice that the UCR was from last fall. Are we planning to do separate repair program for 2023, or is this encompass the repairs that we plan to do this year?
We plan to bid them and do them this year, yes.
Okay, but this is what's proposed here. Is this the only work we're doing on the parking structures this year?
No, there'll be other jobs that we'll be bidding out. There's some elevator repairs. I mean, there's a long list of repairs needed in these parking garages.
Sure.
Yes, but these two big ones are basically the same, where they're removing beams and reinforcing them, so we bid them together to try to get a better price.
Okay, thank you.
Especially because they're right next to each other.
Sure, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other questions from committee members or council members? Is consent okay?
Yes.
Okay, get a motion for consent.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. We have nothing else coming before us. We are adjourned.
Our next committee of the day is the Public Safety Committee. Those committee members are Kamer, Mosley, Lombardo, Malik, and McKittrick. We do have all committee members present. If we can give everyone just a moment here. We are ready here in chambers when you are, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, I'd like to call the public public safety meeting to order. All members are present. Can I get approval of our minutes, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. We do have one new piece in front of us. And Sarah, if you don't mind, can you read that in since I'm on Zoom?
Sure. This is an ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts after requesting proposals for the purchase of a new record management system software package to be utilized by the Akron Fire Division and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Sarah. And I do see several representatives here, but I'll start with Deputy Mayor of Public Safety, Tucker.
Good afternoon. Yes, this actually is a software program that will bring us from like the Stone Age and the age where we're using carbon paper to the point where we can actually put those carbon paper people out of business. And that's just one thing, but it really does advance the fire department with our scheduling and everything else to the current age and the current systems that are available. And with that, I'm going to defer to Chief Natco to give you some more specific details.
Good afternoon. Thank you for listening to us on this proposal.
Chief, I'm so sorry to interrupt. Can you pull that microphone closer to your mouth? That way the people on Zoom can hear you a little
There
more
we go.
clearly.
Is that better?
Thank you.
All right, I'll start again. Good afternoon. Thank you for taking time to listen to our proposal. What we're looking at is a system that blends several pieces and parts that we have in place today for different management of different processes, such as our EMS reporting, our fire reporting, our firefighter scheduling, our inspection reporting, and it takes all of them and puts them under one roof, so to speak, which will let different systems talk to each other, be more streamlined, and ease the burden of some of the work that we've got going on right now in the fire department administratively. I'll let Chief Paletta and Chief Henderson speak a little more in detail about what we're doing to try some of these products out to see what works best and kind of our process to getting to where we're at today.
Good afternoon. I'm currently assigned as the subdivision of Safety Communication Center. What this does, it enhances our communication. It also increases our performance, and we run a better and more lean system as far as management. It'll enable us to, like, take for instance, we have tires, which is our biggest topic right now, is illegal tire dumps. Imagine a world with a software, with an inspection software, we can go and inspect the tire company, track the tires, count the number of tires, and next time we have a complaint or an issue at that tire factory, we can go back to our data. Now we can have a complaint in reference to saying, where did these tires go? Because we have a record of when we did our inspection to see this, where the tires, we had the tires on the property. Take, for instance, when you have an EHS, that's an environmentally health and safety, where the safety to the community and to the fire department, we can track not only what the chemicals are at that facility when we do those inspections, we know where they're at and how much they have, and that'll basically dictate how we proceed with our course of action and how we evacuate the community. Those are the biggest keys as far as the software.
Chief Paletta, I'm in charge of communications. I'll go a little bit further than Chief Henderson. One of the biggest things that we were all looking for was analytics. For the fire department, we have been really far behind with analytics to share with the community, to share with you, to share with ourselves, to get grants and basically just general information out to the community. With this software and tying everything in together, we're going to be able to actually be able to get good information for our grants that we're going to apply for, as well as if you all have information or want information, instead of looking at different spreadsheets and trying to pull it all together, it should be readily available to us to give to you as soon as possible. So. all I have.
All right, thank you. Good presentation. Any committee members on public safety have any questions or comments? Councilman Malik.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for being here today. I'm glad to hear all of this. I'm sure it will be a big step forward for us. You know, you particularly mentioned chief analytics, and I think that would be helpful. I know there was some discussion in the legislation about helping with firefighter scheduling, and I imagine that some of the analytics will help us when we come to balance between, you know, straight time and overtime. Is that the case?
So with the scheduling software, basically how we've been doing it is pen and paper. It's difficult at best to schedule a long-term process with that scheduling software. How we can do it at this time is once we actually input the firefighters' comp days or Kelly days, vacations, holidays, that kind of stuff, we'll basically know a year ahead of time what kind of need and the fire department's going to need to hire overtime if that's what we're going to have to do.
Yep, that sounds like a great tool to have in our tool belt when we're looking at staffing and with everything going on with AMR. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions or comments from committee members? Any other council members? All right, thank you. What's the pleasure, Deputy Mayor Tucker?
Could we get suspension of the rules on this?
I'll make a motion for suspension of rules.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you, everyone. I appreciate you coming down. Before we adjourn, we do have a presentation from our Chief of Staff, Gert Wellm, so I'll turn it over to her. And then if there's any questions or comments, I'll take those from the Public Safety Committee first, and then any other council members that are tuning in. Chief of Staff?
Thank you so much, Chair Kamer. I definitely appreciate it. At the request of this council and some of our own local partners, there was an update done to the emergency manual for this building. It is in a quick reference guide, and I'm going to have Susan. Susan, if you want to go to the podium there. Susan Lomancuso-Shapiro is going to talk briefly. I'm sorry, she has a scheduling conflict, so she is going to talk very briefly about the manual and some of the quick reference. We kind of took, the Akron Municipal Court did one for actually the safety building when I was over there. It's in a staggered format. So when you look at it, it's real quick reference. If there's a fire, if there's tornadoes, where do I go in the quick reference? Flip it to that, and you can see, we just haven't put it out for print yet. It does require a little bit of time, but we will definitely make sure you have just this two-dimensional copy if you'd like. Susan, do you just want to, well, I guess I can go into more. I really would like to thank everybody's effort on this. With the update from the old manual, you know, we have a lot of cubicles in Muni World. So I was kind of just looking at floor plans and saying, this is kind of where cubicles are now. This is how you leave the building. Where are fire extinguishers? Where is the quickest exit? It's like, like reading it, I feel like I'm on a flight. You know, sometimes your closest exit might be behind you, and you just forget that. You know, we're so used to coming in one way, leaving one way, to really think about, you know, there are multiple exits on every single floor, and just being aware of that plan if you need it. So this is a confidential document because it is a safety plan. We would definitely like to share it with our employees, just not share it publicly. So we will definitely make sure everybody gets a copy. I would remind you, police, fire are here, always willing to come to ward meetings and talk about public safety measures. And I'm just sitting here thinking, I've never actually fired a fire extinguisher. Just sometimes that very basic training, that when you need it, you need it. And that's one thing I probably should be a little more aware of. So it's some of just those very basic things, but it's very good to be in one reference guide, available to staff on the need. Again, this was an updated manual, and I know This was the original manual. It has been updated with some new names, some new phone numbers on where it is appropriate to do contact. Susan, are you ready?
My team and I, that includes Akron Fire Police and a member of the Safety Committee, John Gould, and I have put together a quick reference guide, as Gert was talking about. And what we did was we took the emergencies, types of emergencies that are found in that thick manual, and put it into we're going to get it published into a flip-type book. And so the reason is so everybody can have that in the Muni building, so they are prepared. And preparedness for emergencies is very important, like knowing where your exits are, and knowing that most emergencies you're either going to evacuate or shelter in place. And to know how to go about this, it will be all in this, or is in this quick reference guide. There's also information on emergencies such as civil disturbance. So the first thing you do, call 911, call the building security, stay away, close, lock all things that are secure, make sure things are secure, and stay away from the windows, and shelter in place. Also, very importantly, mentioned in the book is that the service director is authorized to close any city facility or building as needed.
And Susan, we definitely appreciate you putting this together. How quick, or when do you think the final format, the flip book, will be available?
That'll have to go out to the publisher, and as soon as I find out that the information is all complete, so all it is getting it out to, on the, there's a site that can publish this.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to share with council?
That's all I have right now. Thank you.
Okay. And police and fire are here. If anybody has specific questions, they will be here to answer those after the fact. Are there any questions I can answer in this format? Councilman, I definitely appreciate your time. We'll definitely make the current book available so everybody have a chance to look at that. And again, police, fire, the service director, all here. If anybody has questions they'd like to ask us directly.
All right, I appreciate that. Any questions, committee members, for the chief of staff? If not, we'll adjourn.
Thank you.
All right, we'll adjourn. Thank you again. I appreciate you.
Our next committee will be the Budget and Finance Committee. Those committee members are Freeman, Amobian, Malik, Baylor, and Lombardo. That will begin at 3 o'clock. Again, that's the Budget and Finance Committee, and it will begin at 3 o'clock. Thank you.